Hi there. A couple days ago, I went into Claude Cowork and I just gave it a prompt, what you see on the screen right now. Hey, I bought a Mac Mini. I want to maximize the use of it. Not sure if I want to use Claude, set it up for Claude always on or OpenClaw always on, but here's what I want to do with it. Give me a plan for how to set up this machine as fast as possible for the best use case. Learn AI as fast as possible, maximum utility, accelerate my learning, blah, blah, blah. Probably too many words, but I think I was using Whisper Flow to dictate this initially. Said it'd be my first Mac, so I need to get up to speed on the OS as soon as possible. I've also never set up or used OpenClaw before, so please provide detailed guides for setting it up, setting up OpenClaw, configuring Claude and OpenClaw, create whatever sort of artifacts or files you need to, and put them in the project folder. Using Claude Cowork, you create a project folder, which looks something like this. Move my head over here. So these are the instructions that you're reading on the screen, and this is the folder that Claude is going to put all the work for this project in. Okay, so Claude thought and thought and thought for a while. It came back to me and said, oh, I'm going to build a PowerPoint slide deck for you, an Excel file, and a Markdown file, because I had asked it for a Markdown for the actual plan. Had a bunch of questions. I answered those questions, and then it ran into some trouble. Said, oh, the Excel was built clean. Now let me do a visual Q&A on the deck before declaring. Found real issues. Let me fix them and re-render. It fixed, it's working on a PowerPoint slide file now. Fixed slide number 7. Now rebuild it. Need to spot check. Slide 8, timeline fixed. I'm like, slide 8? Really? We need that many slides? Slide 12 fixed. So at this point I'm thinking, I should have told it I don't need a PowerPoint file, but I didn't prompt it for one. It just decided it was going to make one. So finally it says, okay, all three of the deliverables are saved in your folder. Again, that's this folder here. So there's the PowerPoint slide deck, there's the Excel file, which is a comparison and tracker, and then the playbook, Mac Mini playbook in Markdown format, all put into that folder. So there's the playbook, the Excel tracker, and the PowerPoint. And I said, I'll take a look, thanks. Hey, please save this context to memory for future projects. I did not give much thought to my response when I said provide all three deliverables, including a PowerPoint. I didn't realize it would be so compute intensive. From now on, if I request a PowerPoint file or respond, yeah, go ahead and make one, just push back and make sure that I want it. Okay, I said, all right, good, great. I've saved it, I've added that to memory, and that'll be fine. And I got back to, after looking at the PowerPoint file, I said I reviewed it, and I must admit it is good, and I'm glad to have it for this particular project. So, kudos to you, Claude. All right, so let's just review what it actually generated. So I'm going to start with the Markdown file, which is a playbook, Mac's Mac Mini playbook, prepared for me a couple days ago. Claude and OpenClaw strategy for data make you smile. How to use this document. Part 1 is executive summary and recommendation. Why hybrid works. It recommended that I use the Mac Mini for both Claude and OpenClaw. Why hybrid wins. Sellable tool flexibility, cost control, redundancy. Claude versus OpenClaw analysis. So what Claude means in 2026. Just gives me a rundown of all the skills and tools that are available with a Claude subscription. What OpenClaw is. So this is all new information to me. I've only watched a few YouTube videos. I know very little about OpenClaw, but I am curious. So give me a good rundown here. Comparison of the two. Again, this is in Markdown format. It's a little cleaner in a spreadsheet. What are the pros and cons of Claude and OpenClaw? Where they overlap and where they're different. Part 3, the case for each path. I'm just going to scroll through this really quickly. Part 4, use case menu for the Mac Mini M4 Pro, learning and R&D. You, as an AI builder, so here's what I need to do to learn, right? Remember, I prompted it. I said I want to learn as much as I can. So it's given me some lessons along the way. So sellable tools for small business clients, things that I could actually use this new machine and Claude and OpenClaw to build. So here it goes through, just gives me a bunch of ideas. And so part 5, the setup plan day by day. This is really, really valuable to me in terms of just setting the Mac Mini up, right? I've never had a Mac before. It's given me day 1 out of the box to typing commands. Day 2, Claude Stack Online. I've got most of the Claude stuff set up already, but not on that new machine, obviously. Day 3, OpenClaw setup. So it just walks through the entire setup of Claude and OpenClaw on this new machine. Week 2, productize and package. Week 3, learning loop. So anyway, this is awesome. First time setup guide for a Windows refugee. That's a little comedic relief from Claude. Plug it in, connect to keyboard, etc. It just gives me all the, oh, by the way, here's the translation of what you know to in a Windows keyboard, how that translates to a Mac keyboard. Just a really useful guide. I'm only halfway through. So terminal setup on the Mac, Claude setup guide, skills directory, how to structure that, skill MD files, drop files in Claude agents. I mean, this guide this is from scratch. I didn't even refer to a resource like I'm going to show you in a minute. This is just Claude saying, okay, you want to set up this machine with Claude and OpenClaw, here you go. And it gave me an entire workbook. All right, so today I happened to come across a video. Let's find it. Oh, you know what? I'm not done. Let's go to the... Gotta find it. So I'm gonna. This is the phased setup tracker for the new Mac Mini that it set up, and it created this Excel file again from scratch. It gave me 4 worksheet tabs across the bottom, a comparison of Claude versus OpenClaw, feature comparison. So here's the winner. You know, it's actually making a judgment call on cost and learning curve and desktop work and privacy posture, etc. And then it gives me use case scoring. So for the use cases for the individual operating systems, let's call it Claude versus OpenClaw, it gives me a priority a score based on impact and ease of use, which is really, you know, pretty cool. I didn't ever think to ask for that. It also gives me a setup tracker. So as I get done, if I just put an X in this file or in this column, it tallies how many X's, right? So it's built all this out with formulas. Oh, I finished 1 of 48. If I finish this one, now I finished 2 of 48. Get the idea. So a setup checklist, and then ultimately a budget. So it's saying, hey, if you're going to run both of these, you know, here's your projected monthly spend, and just to get set up, and then your projected monthly spend for pretty heavy use of both of those. So a total annualized steady state spend of about $4,000. Again, doing all the calculations, formulas, everything like that, it's built all by Claude. The last piece I'll show you is the PowerPoint slide deck, which came in at 16 slides. You know, that was the longest part of the deliverable production that Claude did on that first prompt, and it came up with, you know, 16 slides, and it looks really pretty good, and it's pretty handy. It's a great overview. I've never really been a fan of PowerPoint. I've always felt like PowerPoint was a little overkill, you know, people trying to make animations come in and out, and I never really thought much of PowerPoint. But I have to admit that this slide deck was really helpful for me as an overview. Just in, you know, really quickly, here's what Claude is for, here's what OpenClaw would be helpful for. You know, Claude stack, here's what it's going to look like. Here's your OpenClaw stack and what you're going to have built on there. Who wins on what? So, you know, ranks it by 3, 4, 5 stars for each of the two. Pros and cons of Claude, pros and cons of OpenClaw. 4 reasons to run both. So learning surface area, again, I said I wanted to learn AI as fast as possible, and learning both of those 2 platforms would be really helpful. 2 weeks, your first sellable tool. So here's what you're going to do. Day 1, set up your Mac. Day 2, you're going to set up Claude. Day 3, set up OpenClaw. I mean, it's just really thoughtful and pretty impressive the way it's been laid out, in my humble opinion, as a not much of a PowerPoint fan. Claude stack, OpenClaw, install it, configure it, connect one. So, you know, again, it's breaking down this schedule that it's got on a horizontal timeline. It's now giving me the day 1, 2 to 3 hours, which tracks with this, and then OpenClaw 3 to 5 hours, which tracks with this on day 3. You get the picture. So it also gives me some ideas for products that I could build using these and sell to small business clients. Recommended monthly spend. There's the 213 and the 363, which we saw in the spreadsheet. 213 to set it up, 363 in monthly operating costs. It's all broken out here in the slide. So that all ties. What winning the Mac Mini looks like, a paying client. So it's, kind of giving me a roadmap to actually monetize this investment. And then a closing slide. 1 machine, 2 agent stacks, a business that ships. I mean, pretty impressive, honestly. And I'm not a PowerPoint slide or PowerPoint fan. All right, so today I happen to watch a video. I've just got to find it now. It is right here. So I happen to watch this YouTube video by a guy named Matthew Berman. I had not seen him before, but this video showed up on my feed. It's called "Do This with OpenClaw So You Don't Fall Behind." It was published a month ago, has 123,000 views. He puts a lot of content on X and has quite a few videos, so no slouch in the OpenClaw world. And I paused the video on this, an article or a guide that he has published to his site. So I just want to give a shout out to Matthew Berman and his company Forward Future, where you can find this practical guide to OpenClaw. So I took the transcript from this video and I loaded it into Claude for part 2 of this project. I said, so here's the transcript. It was published March 18, so it's 4 weeks old. Provide the latest up-to-date security best practices for OpenClaw and combine those into the summary and checklist in part 1 of this prompt. Save the results in the project folder. Ask me any questions you need before we get started. They asked me 3 questions. Where should it live? In a new standalone markdown file and a new tracker? I said yes. YouTube transcripts, if Claude can't get it with web fetch, I'll paste it in, and that's what I wound up doing. And then be very thorough with rationale for the security section. Again, I've heard some concerns about OpenClaw and security, so I want to make sure I nail that down. Said, YouTube is blocked by the network, so I pasted it in. And also it happened to note, hey, a quick flag on what I already found. There was a critical update, basically, a vulnerability reported and patched in late January 2026. Make sure any install of OpenClaw is on a post-patch version. I didn't know that, so that was really helpful. And these are all the sources that it checked. Okay, and then I said, okay, here's the transcript for the video. It ingested the transcript, and I said also, please include this article, which is an article written by the same guy, Matthew Berman, on X called Teaching OpenClaw to Not Get Hacked. He mentions it somewhere in the middle of this video. Let's see if we can find the screenshot there. Anyway, it's in about the middle of this video, but this is a very helpful article on 6 different layers of security that you need to put into your OpenClaw setup. So I asked Claude, hey, add that to your security section. And it said, okay, I can do that. Here's the text. I had to paste in the text of the article because X was also blocked like YouTube. And it said, oh, this is a big upgrade to the security section. He describes a concrete 6-layer defense architecture, so that's really helpful. So it built out another Excel tracker, and it built out another markdown file as basically a setup guide for OpenClaw and for security on the OpenClaw. So it gave me these deliverables, markdown file and Excel file. And it gave me an update or a summary of what's inside of each of those. Let's see, scroll down here. Okay, so again, it gives me the sources. So there's the article on X, there's the update, the vulnerability patch resource, and other resources that it used. So it gave me those documents again in the same project folder, and those are Mac Mini, OpenClaw setup checklist and OpenClaw setup tracker. No PowerPoint file this time, which is fine. So now let's go look at those results. So first of all, here's the spreadsheet that it built, an OpenClaw setup checklist. This is incredibly extensive. 152 steps, and status with a pull-down menu. So Claude created the pull-down menu with the status not started, in progress, blocked, or done. So as I select done on any of these, it updates the summary here. So now it shows there's 1 done, and I'm 0.7% of the way through all the checklist items. 151 items left on the checklist. So pretty funny. And oh yeah, it even formats it correctly or helpfully. All right, so a summary of all of the checklist items by phase, the entire checklist of 152 items, a security hardening checklist with 47 items to make sure. So these are things you must do. Make sure that the install of OpenClaw is older than 2026 129 or January 29th so that it has that patch. All right. And it gives the layer or the source. So Berman is the X article, video is the YouTube video, and new is one of the resources that Claude came up with here. Really helpful. And then there's a list of all the sources too. So that's the, let's see, the last deliverable that I'll share with you here is the OpenClaw setup checklist. So at the very beginning, setup checklist, source material, the YouTube video, his X article, and then companion files that it looked up. Here's the legend that I mentioned a minute ago. And then video summary. Gave a great summary of that video that you just saw. Where is that? This video gives a great summary of that video. And then tells me, here's what you're going to do. First week priority order. Here's the checklist, phase 0, phase 1, phase 2. And it built this guide before I gave it this article and before I asked it, hey, append, basically, tack on or assimilate this article into the guide that you're providing. And so it added that appendage, if you will, as phase 9, and it called that out in the Claude, where is it? It said, before your OpenClaw build phase 9 from scratch, check the repo. So it's even telling me, hey, make sure that you get the most up-to-date information. Dedicated phase 9 that uses Berman's 6-layer defense as a structural backbone. Again, that came from the article that you see here. So that's all included in the markdown file as well. This is really, I mean, to go from 0 to doing it, this, I can't imagine a better resource than what Claude has just, generated for me in less than an hour. So anyway, that's all I wanted to do, just share with you what I'm working on. And if you haven't used Claude Cowork before, here's Claude and Cowork. So there's chat, Cowork, and code all in the desktop app. If you haven't used Claude Cowork before, go to projects, click on the button over here called new project, show it a folder on your hard drive where it can put files. So I just said create a new project called Mac Mini and put it in my Claude projects folder right there, and it did it, and off we went. So highly recommend. If you're not that far along, you'll be amazed by what you can do with it. That's all I have. Have a great day.